Hello, this is Chris Jansen. Welcome to the End Evil podcast.
Are you in contradiction with your own beliefs? As within, so without. Is it possible to think no one deserves to have more rights than any other and believe in the authority of government? Are you in contradiction with your own beliefs? As within, so without. Is it possible to think no one deserves to have more rights than any other and believe in the authority of governments at the same time? The consequences of this contradiction is what creates all the horrors that we see in the world today. The universe is mental. All creation comes from mind. This food forest is a creation of my mind. And the earth and the plants and the trees are from the mind of another creator. All is mind. This is the first law of nature. This hidden knowledge is used by those who control us to be in this contradiction and to control our minds, to create the world that they want to see. For they know, as within, so without. This is the second law of nature.
embracing the mark of the beast technology, but implanting the seed of spiritual immortality and precision.
With man, let's breathe. The plan must be the rottenness. I plant my seed like a botanist. I show you where the problem is. Beneath the surface.
Welcome, friends. This is another session of One Great Work Warriors. We've been meeting our weekly mastermind, doing our work, talking about philosophy, looking for the points we can make and discuss that are worthwhile. And we're talking about knowing your natural law rights, ultimately. So let me introduce my crew. I'll pass it first to right here next to me. I got Rick.
Hello.
We got Rick from Rick's I've Been Thinking. We got Brandon Spencer, awesome content creator, One Great Work Warrior, One Great Work Network, Odyssey content creator. We got Jim Adams, Truth in Your Heart, YouTube content creator, awesome speaker. And we got Jerry, another blooming content creator and thinker. And then over here we got coming in from France at 3 a.m. in the morning, Derek Bartolicelli, the mix master, musical genius, and natural lawyer, as Diesel Automatic put it this weekend in the funnel conference. So yeah, let me hand it off to Brandon. I'll let you get this one started. What are we talking about, Brandon?
Yes, before we get this one started real quick, I want to give a shout out to the people who put on the Funnel 3, Chris Jansen, Will Keller, Hell Leslie, all of the wonderful individuals, so shout out to them. It was a wonderful experience. Shout out to anyone who helped donate, who put any sort of energy, who helped support anybody who was in the chat, who came and, hung out with us. Thanks to Rick and anyone who was out there. It was a wonderful experience. So shout out, much love. It's something that I'm starting to look forward to, each year. So, well, yeah, this week's topic is going to be a very interesting one. Care versus Karen, or care versus the Karens. Yeah, this is going to be one that I would say most people think that they are familiar with. But as far as the care aspect, but as a Karen aspect, we want to maybe try to dive a bit deeper into what's behind the psychology of Karens, because if people aren't really familiar with this is a a a dark archetype, what I phrase it as, one that's been around for a very long time, and it's an archetype that seems to work its way up to the head, or work its way up to the surface whenever there's tyranny. So this whole tattletale, hell, nanny state that we are seeing, start to work its way up. That's all coming out of this Karen type, negative, unconscious feminine energy. So I'm gonna pass it over to Derek real quick, and we're gonna jump into this.
Buongiorno. How we all doing tonight, fellas? Always great, honored and a pleasure to be. So yeah, I submitted some kind of slide a couple weeks ago, kind of playing off of a few things that, brought to mind with the whole Karen energy. And yeah, Brandon, just like what you were talking about, just kind of triggered a train of thought that I was going to ride on with, just to bring up, just because I'll forget it later on, because it's 3 a.m. I hope my video is coming in clear somewhat. I'm struggling to get some kind of internet, but what I've noticed is with this whole, the Karen energy, this inverted principle of divine care, like from the heart, where it's based off a true gnosis of oneself and everything around them, in a sense, like to the best of their ability, in a humble sense, and pathway work. With that whole feminine energy, and like seeing all the memes on the internet and whatever, I'm just looking at all these females, like they got way too much yang up in their thing, meaning that they're way too much in the masculine. And so there's a play on that whole energy and the polarization of things, and how, you know, they're running off of programs, conditioning, brainwashing, whatever, and just like negative knowledge, in a sense of just like something that's not necessarily true, or like little bits that are true. And, you know, they just run off of that, and they're like yelling at people on the fucking streets.
You're right.
It's
Yep.
really weird, and you don't see that in France, really. So it's like some type of exquisite programming, if you will, in America mostly. I don't know, probably in other Anglo-Saxon places, but that's what I've noticed. Next on the list, who we got? I'm gonna
Wait,
pass it off like a hot
just
potato.
real quick, because we're still on the Karen aspect. So, um, people really need to understand the principle of gender to really grasp this. You know, we all have these masculine traits, or these masculine forms of energy, and we have these feminine forms of energy, or traits. It just exists with it in all things. So when we look at this feminine form, it is this passive, her receiving, her recepting form. But when it comes to creation, because we have free will, we have the ability to choose, we have the ability to create. We can either create consciously or we can create unconsciously. When we see this Karen energy, we have to really ask ourselves, what is it really creating? Because it may come in the form of love, but is it really true love? Or is it a form of
Right.
proxy love? So it's coming out of form of unconscious creation, because if you look at what unconscious creation is, it's coming out of irrational. It's coming out of some fight, freeze, or fight or flight, or it's coming out of this emotional stimulus reaction to overstimulation in your environment. So it's an unconscious creation that we see. So then, therefore, if it's coming out of this unconscious creation, then it's going to be that negative form of creation. So that's why I say it comes out of the dark unconscious feminine. It's an archetype that has always been around, because it is a smothering form of energy. It is a restrictive form of energy. It is an energy that cuts back, that will suffocate. I- if you know of the mother that will just suffocate her child, with just so much love, just get that, tighter and tighter and tighter, to where the child can't breathe, the child can't develop, the child can't grow. You are restricting growth, you are restricting consciousness. It is binding. Therefore, it becomes a religion, in a sense, if you really understand what religion means at its etymology. That's why I said earlier, this archetype, because it is an archetype. It's been around. It's been in all the stuff, the how the witches that will manipulate the kids and stuff like that. It's the same energy, that unconscious feminine energy, that is still controlling, but it's a restrictive form of control that prevents growth, that prevents health development. It retards, it binds, and is insidious, because it comes in the form of good intentions. It comes in the form of collectivism. It comes in the form of it's for the greater good. It comes in the form of we know what's better for you. You know, we are the authority. Mommy knows what's better than you. It comes in that loving, controlling energy. And that's some of the most insidious form of energy, because just like like the whole reptile, it smothers, it restricts, it's insidious. The whole uh what did Tessarion call it, what the dragon mother, her
Yep.
innocence. It all comes out of like that same dark unconscious archetypal feminine energy. It doesn't make the feminine negative. It's just an unconscious ignorance, because that's what we are dealing with. The Karens, they want to be the ones who are in control. They think they, know how to solve the situation, and that's why they go to the authorities, you know. they'll call mommy or daddy, or they'll call the government, they'll call the order followers. And remember, Karens just don't have to be biological women. We're talking about a mindset. Men can be
Exactly. Yeah.
Karens. There are a lot of men
Yeah.
out there who do the same thing and will call, will call the cops and will react the same way. So
Yeah.
don't just, associate it with, just, biological, women or someone that identifies as a woman, because most Karens will, wear what they identify, like on their sleeves, and, freaking, it'll be on their cars, like freaking, they'll just labeling themselves, just identifying, just showing the whole world that they are, down with the cause, because they have to, pretend
Virtue
to,
signaling.
yeah, that's all it is. That's all Karens do. But this Karen mentality is produced out of cult mentality, because Karens are produced by cults, because it's just the same indoctrination. It's the same indoctrination. The same indoctrination. There were Karens around in Nazi Germany. There were Karens around, hell, when the Gestapo was doing hell, whatever. There were Karens around in Russia. Hell, there was Karens around in every communistic regime. There was Karens around. Every great civilization went down due to immorality, ignorance of natural law. There were Karens around doing the whole COVID stuff, ratting on people. So and so doesn't have their diaper on their face. He has his diaper below his chin. It's a tattletale childlike mentality for someone who like never really grew up, someone who doesn't know how to solve problems, someone who has no problem solving skills. And the reason why that is because every Karen will ignore the first step of the trivium. And what is that? Taking in information. They will skip that point. They will skip that point. They will skip that first step. They'll automatically go to the second step. You get 2 out of 3, and that equals what? Base consciousness. Every time.
Running off.
Yeah, every time. That's why they go in emotion, action. There's no gathering data. None. So you can't filter anything. They always skip the first step. Sorry to go on that little
That is a
rant,
really
but
good point.
yeah.
That's
That was
an
a great
excellent
point.
rant that probably should be repeated about 20 times so people can get it. Why don't we go to Jim next? You got something going there, Jim? I know I see some steam coming out of those ears. Good thoughts cooking in there.
I'm just fascinated to hear, what Brandon had to say about that. Like the whole Karen concept is pretty new and to me, but when I think of Karen, I think of Karens are like the defenders of conformity, and they're the ones who are always going to be at you like they're just a whatever. They're a pain in the ass, but um yeah, I really not sure if I have too much more to say on Karens, but I know like Rick maybe has a good story about it.
Oh yeah.
If you don't mind on the spot.
No, I'm not at all, man. I don't mind at all. I just want to I'll build on a little bit on what Brandon just said too, about how, Karens are quick to call the authority figures. I would argue that a lot of them actually take on the authority role. At least it wasn't the case with me when I was at a coffee shop, and this was right when the mask wearing was in full swing, and I wouldn't wear one. And I went into a coffee shop and was minding my business, and some lady came up and made a scene, and she was gonna she was gonna hand me my ass, and she made sure everybody in the store heard it, and she was, let me know that the whole thing, that I'm part of the problem, and I'm gonna be causing all these people harm. I'm gonna be injuring people, and she really went at me, and I just kind of stood there and let her go. But she definitely took on this authoritative figure, and I remember after it took me off guard because I've never really ran into somebody like that. I've had disagreements with people, heavy discussions, heated discussions, but never had somebody that I never knew just come out and give me the business in public like that. And it kind of took me back. And since then, I've really thought about it. And I just think, like, did she really care that I wasn't wearing a mask like that? Or was it because she was told that she should care about it? Like, was it the social media telling her that she should, stand up and care and let people know, and then but I don't think she really cared. It was like a proxy care. It wasn't like a true care. I don't think it really deep down, I don't think,
Right.
before that it would have never bothered her, but because of, her being told that she should care, she kind of took on that role. And I like the way that Brandon said that, just don't think that we're talking when we say Karen, that we're thinking about this isn't just a woman thing. I bring to the table that, and this whole Karen thing, and with the women, it's bleeding over to men. And I call it like this white knight. You're starting to see this Karen, it's kind of bleeding over. And now you have men that are kind of taking on the Karen role. And I just call it white knighting because I see it a lot where this is going on. So yeah, that was one of my first experiences with somebody that was with that reaction. And I just wondered, did she really care deep down, a true care? I don't think so. I think it was because she took on, that's what she was told to care about. That was kind of, her job was, and she kind of took on that authority figure, and to hand my ass to me, basically, is what she thought. So that's what I want to add in, and maybe Chris, you want to add on to it, but it was shocking for a minute.
Yeah, there's I had a lot of those kind of situations. I could tell a
Yeah.
lot of those stories, but I did a lot through the COVID thing. I kind of want to hear from Jerry. You got anything on your mind on this topic, Jerry, with the Karens?
Yeah, I'll just build on what Brandon said. It sounds like a Karen is reactive. Therefore, that's more of not the mammalian brain, the reptile brain.
Mm.
So if you think of it as the left brain hemisphere and the right brain hemisphere, it sounds like the right brain, or that the person under the Karen let's say the Karen is having, or is under left brain imbalance. Therefore, there's not enough intuition, like intuitivity, creativity, care. So I'll pass it back to you, Chris.
That's a really good point, Jerry, because so often people get lost in just being completely left-brained, and that's a lot of times what happens in this rule-following type situations. They're like, "Oh, the rule says right there, and that's what they told me, and why don't we just follow the rule?" It's because they're not balancing the two sides of the self. And in the same way, it's like they're adopting the non-aggression principle. We don't want people to get hurt. We don't want ourselves to get hurt, but they're not balancing it with the self-defense principle, which means that each of us has a right to defend our own body in our own way that we see fit. And so, I think it was good that you brought up the mask situation, because for me, that was when this word really emerged in the psyche of the mainstream. Although, as Brandon points out, the same archetype has existed all through time and corrupted many a nation. And it kind of is like an indication of a really, really sick society when members of your society start eating, like cannibalizing each other. And we're not actually eating each other like zombies quite yet, but the symbolism is very true, because that's what it is. It's doing harm upon oneself or someone else, verbally and psychologically, because there's a lack in yourself. And I've often just recently kind of had I don't know what you would call it, download from the universe. I had this realization that when you base your thinking style on beliefs, right? Like you believe in dogma, you believe in religion, you're tied to a story that someone else told you or that you read somewhere. And if you're living that way and the framework of your psyche is based on a story, well, think about it. When you go see a movie, there's always holes in movies. As tightly as someone could put it together, they're making this thing up. It's not a real story. So there's always going to be holes, right? And so imagine if your framework going forward of your life is like your road, right? But there's a bunch of frickin' in this road because it's made from a story. It's not made from the actual reality, right? So then you start walking down this road and you start feeling really nervous and scared because you realize there's holes all over in it. There's no solid ground. And so you start trying to fill those holes in last minute with other people's, trying to steal from other people by harming other people, and that's what it is. Basically, they're recognizing that within themselves there's lacking. The purpose doesn't make sense. They don't have a purpose because they're leading their life and making their decisions based on a non-reality, a storyline, and it's got a lot of holes in it. And so it's almost like I really want to talk 1 second about not Brandon Martin, but Douglas Martin's presentation. It really impressed me, the first slide of Douglas Martin's presentation in the Funnel 3 conference, where he had the scene of you're sitting in a movie theater and you have a choice of you're just going to be an observer and you hear and watch the screen, and the movie that's playing is the latest religion or the latest story, right? Or you get out of your seat and you walk up into the film room and you start clipping the reels and putting the pictures into the screen and telling the story yourself or living the story yourself. You know, like you be part of the action, right? You get into this game. But a lot of people aren't ready to do that because that's scary. And it's like, it means you have to question all these things about the history of your life and all these decisions you made that were based on a storyline. And that's so scary to people. And they so don't want to face that. They want to pull you to the dark side, basically, you know, like the emperor. They want to get you mad. They want to suck you into their hole of despair, of not knowing why you're living or what you're doing things for. And it makes them feel better. It's like misery loves company type of thing. So, you know, when I went out in public and people took that attitude with me, did my best to shut it down, you know, but if you get really confrontational with these people, they'll keep stepping it up a notch. And it's about stupid stuff, right? And so part of me had to realize, like, as much as it pisses me off and frustrates me to see these people, there's so many aspects of our society that are already that way and been that way. Cops are Karens. Okay? You work in government, you're a fucking Karen.
Yeah.
Because you're willing to harm your own human being, you're willing to cannibalize your own humanity for your paycheck or for your selfish desire, because you haven't really thought things out and realized that it's wrong to harm other people. And harming other people means trying to take away their right, trying to use their body or force them to do something with their body or influence their choices without their ability to say no. So yeah, I'll pass it back to you, Brandon.
Yeah, some great point, because you know, again, I want to get people thinking further than just, you know, like the standard is. Just like keep pushing, you know, your mind, keep pushing your thinking, keep pushing your consciousness. You know, don't just think of a Karen as, you know, a middle-aged white woman, you know, with a certain haircut. It goes, you know, further beyond that. But one of the interesting words when I was looking up the term overbearing. So one of the words that was associated with overbearing was the word dogmatic. Because I said earlier, you know, like this Karen archetype is a religion. So, you know, if you look at like this archetypal energy, you can associate it, you know, with how the church, you know, have reacted, how people in government acted. Because again, like this is a religious like cult ideology, you know, like how the cult members will help write out the other members for particular favors. You know, they think that they're going to get, you know, more food or, you know, like certain handouts from the leader. So they'll make up lies or, you know, they'll make up whatever scenario to, you know, to appease or become more favorable, you know, to the cult, you know, which goes into behaviorism, you know, with B.F. Skinner, and all that stuff. But it's the same psychology. It's the same, you know, manipulation. It's the same tactics, because we are dealing with mindset. But yeah, this is a cult like religious mindset. But I just thought it was interesting that the word overbearing and dogmatic were darn near associated with each other. So
Interesting. Yeah.
and Rick brought up a good question. Does a Karen really truly have true care?
Yeah.
Because I would say she does not, or he does not. This individual does not truly
You know,
have.
people
Not true care. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not. It's
People,
like this proxy
Yeah.
something.
people often talk about intentions,
Right.
and a lot of times people will make justifications for shitty behavior or morally wrong behavior by saying,
Yeah.
oh well, he had the best intentions,
Intention.
or she
Mhm.
had the best
Yeah.
intentions. And here's
Yeah,
an
you hear
example
that
I
all
thought
the
of.
time. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about an example to exemplify how stupid that is. Let's just say I'm saying, hey, this world we're in, it's a really bad world. It's an evil world. Everybody's going through a lot of trauma. So I don't really want somebody's baby to grow up in this world because that's going to be really traumatic and they're going to have to face harm. So I'm basically going to throw your baby off this bridge so it doesn't have to go through this life. I'm going to put it out of its misery now so it doesn't have to live this of trauma in this terrible world. And I'm doing that from the best intentions. So it can't be wrong, right? To throw your baby off a bridge because I'm coming from the best intentions, right? Like if you use that kind of thinking, you can justify any kind of stupid ass thing that
Yeah,
someone might do.
Absolutely. Any shitty behavior can be
That's
justified
subjective
with that.
Well, I did
relativism.
it because it was good
Yeah.
intentions.
Subjective relativism.
What's up with the activated intuitive intentions though? That's coming from that true heart-based center, that the generative principle of true
Oh,
care. That's
The
really
real care.
apart
Oh,
from that.
Ooh, you want
Yes.
to talk about that real
that
care,
true
huh?
care. You got
Yeah.
that real
What's
What's
care.
that all about?
It's not about being pulled by, the heartstrings being played by a harp with a double or triple A spelled that way, folks not understanding what's up in the skies, not seeing between the lines, double meaning. But yeah, so bringing it back to what Brandon said kind of in the beginning of, yeah, like it's the emotional mind control that is bypassing that first step of the trivium of like really just really trying to understand and like getting to the proper knowledge, because a lot of people get so like triggered or like knee-jerk reactions towards like even like watching 2 minutes of something that even we're talking about, or some documentaries we've seen and this and that, and they don't really want to even like look further into it
Yeah.
because it's not on TV. Number one, it ain't in the news, and people equate that or attribute it to blah blah conspiratorial minutia, whatever. Sometimes, but there's a lot more to it than that. But like I think Brandon, you were trying to get towards like the more psychological inner overstanding of what makes this really manifest in the whole the modus operandi of what this Karen situation is about, like this demonic dogmatic energy and
Yeah.
how it's generating, it's like people policing other people.
Yeah.
You see people, don't do that, no, and that's not,
Absolutely.
even if it's harming a single soul.
Yeah. And
So
creating more trauma because they're traumatized too. Yeah. That's
And
really
what's scary is that they'll bounce from one topic to another. It's like that's how I know it can't be true care.
That's because it's
1 minute it's like, okay, I'm the mask wearing. Oh, you didn't get the jab. Oh, okay, now it's the trender. Oh, not now. Now it's Black Lives Matter, and they just jump. There's no true. There's no knowledge in there.
But you need to support Ukraine, Rick.
Yeah, like
because-
jump to that one, and it's like, okay, do you really care, or are you just?
No, it's
Remember-
coming from a place. I'll tell you what's happening. It's coming from a place of lack of self purpose, and they're
Good
trying
point,
to make themselves seem important. They're trying to make themselves seem important. They're like, oh, I'm making something important. I'm doing something. I'm a hero right now.
right.
Yep.
And they really
right.
need that feeling because deep inside they know how much they've done the opposite of nothing.
They
That
look for
helps
external
anyone.
validation.
So
Yeah.
they're looking for
Yeah.
a way to make it all right. And
Yeah.
it seems like it's working because a lot of people agree. For a moment, it makes them feel better. It's like
Yep.
eating candy. It can make you feel better in the moment. Is it really good for you long term or anybody? No.
Yeah.
But it does kind of get you past that moment, right?
Yep. Good points. Yeah.
Now, when it comes to actually caring, I think a good thing to talk about is listening, because we can all go out into the world, go to your job, go to your workplace, or just go to a coffee shop, try striking up a conversation with your random person, and notice while you're having that conversation whether that person is really listening to you from their heart, or whether they're just waiting for their chance to say the next thing. And more often than not, people aren't really caring about what you're saying. They're waiting for their chance to say what they want to say, and they want to tell you something, right? It's because they're also, like I said, they're coming from a place inside of themselves of lacking that care, that really does want to know how you're feeling, because they're like, I'm like my tree of life. When you're really connected to the great all, and you understand that there's other things in the world that are just as important as you are, and just as tied into the fabric of reality as you are, that you should give them that equal weight. And wouldn't that come true with our choices too? If you understood that concept, why would you ever want to deny somebody else their choice to say no, or to say, I don't feel comfortable with this, or whatever they're doing, You wouldn't do that if you weren't lacking within yourself that knowledge, and you actually think that you're somehow better than these other people, or that that your reality outshines theirs,
Yeah.
Right. I'm gonna talk about care real quick, and just break it down because I talked about the unconscious form of creation. So you can look at its counterpart, or its antithesis would be the conscious form of creation, or conscious creation. So I would look at how the unconscious form of creation is, creating out of fear, compared to the conscious form of creation, which you're creating out of love. So I'm looking at actions and behaviors, because I said that the unconscious forms were, fight, flight, or freeze, or, the emotional reaction, or, something coming out of the egoic will, like you were just trying to get something for pleasure, or, to one up somebody. Those are just like selfish forms, compared to the conscious forms of creations are done out of like agape love, conscious parenting, or like moral education of the youth, right action, um, behavior and steps that will lead toward more rights and freedom, or the education of rights and freedom. Um, Using how the true will, like you giving up your own, like personal sacrifices to, to truly, do what's right and necessarily, you know. Those are things that are going to lead toward not just good for you, but, how the betterment of not only our species, but for truth itself, how for, just doing the right thing, to help elevate consciousness. These are all things that are going to be forms of conscious creation, because we are talking about forms of vibrational energy. Unconscious creation is going to create a vibrational energy that's going to bring everybody down, compared to conscious creation is going to create a energy that's going to resonate with those, and it's going to uplift and bring everybody up to where it's going to create that unification. You're going to have that centropic form in conscious creation versus that entropic form in unconscious creation. So you can look at this from a scientific level, a spiritual level, a energetic level, from a psychological level. Like there's so many ways to look at it. It's all going, he'll be the same, because it's going to come down to love and fear. Unconscious creation, fear; conscious creation, which is love, care.
Word. And
Good
I just want
point.
to put this out as a reminder, like towards the end, I want to bring forth some solutions. And one that I'm just going to throw out there, and Jim, Jerry, if you want to like run off of this, feel free. But it's, like what I was trying to get to is that, it's hard for men, women, whoever, to like disseminate information if they're so high strung off of like any kind of emotional reaction to that. They have a hard time looking at things objectively. And like if they can be more encouraged to, and like be properly trained, or learn how to do that, and free thinking wise, all that stuff, be open minded, like ways to get anyone to be more inclined to do so. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think what I've been hearing a lot from you guys is like when it comes to like what makes a Karen is like they're really stuck in their belief systems. Like and they can't think their way, deeply out of it. And I had done a little bit of the apophysis, the apophatic inquiry on care. Looking into what care is not. And so when I, just searched up the opposite of care, the one word that really popped out for me was thoughtlessness. And right away, it's like, that's someone who doesn't think,
Yeah.
who doesn't
Yeah.
think clearly, deeply, and critically, and
Gathering the grammar, like
think about,
Brandon said.
yeah, they don't think about their actions. They don't think carefully. They don't think carefully, right? And so that's really, I got, they're really stuck in their belief systems. And then when I kind of brought this subject up about care, like I really am stuck on like like the six of us here, like why do we care? It's not like really like why doesn't anyone else care? Like I struggle with that a lot. Like why do I care? Like I know like my family members, you can't say I was raised to care because they don't care. Like when I talk about these things and morality and all that. And so yeah, I do wonder like why do we care? Like we were talking about what makes a Karen a Karen, but like why do we care? And just occurred to me that was a little funny when that word Karen came around, like whatever 5 years ago, and I was like, what is that? What is Karen? I keep hearing, I don't know what it is. And then when I finally understood what it was, I felt bad for people named Karen. Like I had the empathy. Like I was like, what? Like so I just that was funny. It's like I care
Now
about
that's true care.
named Karen. Like I
Like
feel
right
bad
away,
for
your
them.
mind went to other
Yeah.
people. How that might affect people
Right.
that are innocent.
Yeah,
That's so
that's
sweet.
gotta suck. Yeah.
That's cool.
But yeah, that's thoughtlessness. That was the big one I got out of it. So got anything, Jerry?
Oh, I'm ready, man. Sheesh. Like, I'm excited. Just want to give a quick thought. Like, I like listening to Mark Passio's podcast, right? Like, they're so like, I don't know, 2 hours an episode. I would sometimes get some thoughts like, oh man, if I was live, I would say this and this. So like, this is my chance to say what's on my mind, share it with you guys. So I'm excited about this. And I care because I've been a piece of shit my whole life. It's been about me, and that's it. When I started to care about what was going on in the world, hey, I found out about, chemtrails and yada yada. And I'm sorry, Derek, because I forgot what you said, man. If not, I would have like run off of that. But yeah, great point, Jim. And I think I wanted to mention more about Crip's situation at the coffee shop real quick, because I heard at the Funnel 3, I think it was, what's his name? David Rodriguez's presentation. I think he mentioned like the Gandhi, like Gandhi said, it's like be peaceful. Like, so what I'm getting at is people who were observing, like they can tell that she was wrong and you were right. And what I'm saying, is hopefully people can see that you in their minds that they say, oh yeah, acting out, like yelling at somebody is wrong. So I I think what Crip was good, and that's it.
And it'd be one thing if somebody was just yelling and upset because, let's say, you were doing something that was, obviously hurting other people around you, spraying some noxious chemical into the air or something of that, I could see someone getting upset. And taking words and saying, hey, why are you doing that? That could harm other people, you know. But what people are lacking is the ability to communicate in such a way where they can understand why another person's making the choice they're making.
Right.
And more often than not, first you want to collect the grammar, and the first question would be like, hey, sir, can you explain to me why you've chosen to do such and such
Right.
that seems
Why
dangerous
not
to
pull me
others, to me?
aside? Like, why
You know,
not
have the
pull me aside?
conversation, offer the person an opportunity to let me give a good example too, because for a while I was doing some like Uber type driving, and I was giving a woman a ride, and this was back, you know, when COVID had kind of was still active, you know, like it was still paying to go in stores a lot of times, depending on what store you went into up here. But I took this woman, she wanted to go into this electronic store, she needed a part for her phone. Um, and she had like COPD. She had a lot of trouble breathing. And she wasn't like me. She wasn't, because of freedom, you know, didn't want to wear a mask. She didn't want to wear a mask because she couldn't freaking breathe with a mask on. It made her pass out. It made her feel like she was going to pass out every moment when she put a mask on. And she was telling me about this experience before she went in the store. Now, granted, she was drinking a bunch of soda and smoking cigarettes or whatever, but you're not a healthy person. But anyway, the point is, this woman went into that store and put that mask on because these young people demanded that she did it. When it was very, very obviously affecting this woman's health, and she's not somebody who should ever be wearing a mask, barely catching her breath. And if she had passed out on the floor and died, it had been their damn fault for telling her to wear that thing.
Yep.
It'd be her stupid fault for listening to them too. And so that's not caring for herself, and that's them not caring for her, or actually asking like, hey, you know, is there a reason why you disagree with this rule? Because maybe there's a good reason, you know. And when people don't have that ability to take in the information, like Brandon said, they're just skipping right to the storyline and trying to make themselves feel good about it, when in fact, if you think about what true care is, you know, to shift and transition here into the, like Derek said, the solutions, think about how you treat an infant that doesn't speak yet. Do you get it to do things by pounding it over the head or yelling at it or inhibiting its movements? You know, or do you encourage the infant to learn in as careful a way as you can, which costs you time and energy and patience? That means you got to watch them, basically, is what it comes to as a parent. When you got a little one and they're not big enough to speak yet, and you're not sure if they're going to run into the street or something, that doesn't mean you tie them to a pole. It means you keep a close eye on them, and you stay with them, and you keep your arms out, and you keep your attention on them, and you're patient, and you're focused. These are hard things to do in life, but these are the exact same type of things we do to each other if we want to show true care. We take time, we take patience, we keep our eye on the situation, we're conscious, and we're attentive, right? And none of those things are accusatory, yelling, tying someone to something, tying something around someone's face. None of those things are the solution. So think about how you would treat an infant. Treat yourself that way, your own personal self, and then treat other people in the world that way. Use that same type of love, perseverance.
Great point. Yeah.
And you know, with true care should come truth. You know, like those two words should be synonymous. You know, because we have to care for truth itself. You know, so we should always be willing to, you know, seek out the truth and do the right thing no matter what the situation is. You know, so that's why care has to be put on that pedestal. You know, truth, doing the right thing, her natural law. We should be putting that on the pedestal. Real care. You know, not this inversion, this form of proxy care. You know, that Rick had talked about. Because I mean, if we look at everything that's created in this society, we say is inverted. So we have to look at the love that's people, you know, have the love that people are putting out. That would be an inversion. So that would be the proxy love, the fake love, you know. So, but truth, you know, because without the truth, we would just be blinded. We wouldn't be able to see. Our vision would be poor. You know, so the truth is what's going to guide us, you know, and we have to care for that truth to build in order to see, you know, because this is really about taking in information and observing and decoding the objective reality in nature and learning to live and harmonize with our environment and others and within nature. And we can't do that if we don't care for truth, because we'll be trying to ignore the laws of nature, screwing people over, thinking we can, be gods and create wars and start creating governments, and, things will get all out of control. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Good points, Brandon. Great points by everybody, actually. It's a really good discussion. One I spent a lot of time thinking about, but I think you're so right, Brandon. You got to start caring about truth. You have to caring about what's right, really, like what's right, and then start caring, about yourself. I think that's so important. I don't think a lot of people even care about themselves, and
yeah,
that, if you don't care about yourself, I don't know how you can possibly go and show care to anyone else. I don't think that can be done. It's not a real care like we're talking about. You put out this
yeah,
kind of proxy care that is it looks like care on the surface, but as soon as you go a little bit deeper there, it's very shallow. There's no
yeah,
substance to it because it's not based on real anything. It's not based on truth. It's not based on morality. It's not based on rights. It's not based on anything. It's a inverted lie that people are putting out.
yeah.
The
You know,
one last point I want to make, and then, if anyone else wants to close it up, my last point I want to make is that being a Karen is dangerous. And this is something that kept occurring to me through the COVID. I'm a very peaceful person, but when people decide to step out of the boundary of what's their property, their own body, and start trying to force other people to do or not do something with their own body, that's actually that is the barrier of natural law when you've broken the natural law. And if people are doing that, thinking that's okay, they're actually not doing self-care because they're putting themselves out on a limb in a dangerous place. Even though I'm a really peaceful person, I'm not going to do a violent act. There's somebody else who will. There's a lot of people that are reactive, and they're not in their most divine self. And when someone comes and tries to take something from them or force them to do something, they're just going to react. And you don't want to put yourself in that place. It's not good self-care to be a Karen, because it's hella dangerous. You're going to get killed, beat up, or die. There's people out there that carry knives and guns and weapons,
Yeah.
and you see it happen in the news from time to time when somebody takes this Karen crap a little too far and with the wrong person, and whoops, you know what I mean? That could be life or death. So don't be a Karen, because it's not safe. It's a dangerous freaking thing to do. And think about the people in the past that have been the worst Karens of all, like the slaves that sold their own people to slavery, or the Jews that became the policemen of their own people in Nazi war camps because they could get a little bit better food from the day or something like that. Is that the kind of person you want to be, really? Come on. And that's where I'll end it. I'll pass it on. Anybody else want to finish things up? I'd appreciate it.
Well,
I love what Brandon was saying about, I had that written down, caring for the truth, how that is. And then also how we were speaking about beliefs, and I looked up the word belief earlier too. Like the definition that first came up was to accept something as true, so that's not caring for the truth. That's just,
that's accepting. That's a powerful word.
accepting something that you can't prove is true.
Yep.
Right. So
You don't have the knowledge for yourself. You just accept what somebody's telling you is to be the. Yeah, that's a dangerous. We talked about this on last night, Chris. That's a dangerous mindset to be in.
It's being careless of the
belief.
truth. So that's all. I just appreciate it all, guys, and whoever else wants to go.
Derek, you're muted. Derek, you're muted.
Yeah, that's right. Sorry. Like I was saying, Chris, yeah, it's a dangerous participation in this whole Karen situation. And if someone can be calm and have a little bit of patience and sit through the bullshit and the lies and the fact that they are running on negative knowledge, as I said, which means that they believe something that is the truth. the whole wokeism and the things like that, they think they have it figured out, and they're running off of that. And that's why they're so convinced, and they have so much conviction in that negative sense of that word, when they're not standing in the true I am of like that full self-empowerment that we really come into with that activated heart through that divine care of oneself and wanting to just like be a better person and understand reality and all that stuff, and actually be someone who wants to just affect good change in the world and within their own lives and others. And I know that a lot of Karens out there, Kens, whoever, want to do the same, yet they're just functioning off of whatever fragmented knowledge that isn't necessarily the whole capital all caps truth, if you will. So all I'm saying is that, yeah, encouraging of the open-mindedness and wanting to be the best of your full integral self authentically, and to each their own pathwork on that. Everyone has their own ways and fucking, you know, alignments and the stars and planets and within the, and outside of them. So yeah, all the best of luck to y'all. One's gonna be the master of blah 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 blah, ascendedness or whatever the fuck. You know, no one's going to fucking 5D unless you really want to and do some escapism, whatever the fuck. But yeah. Care for the truth and the well-beingness of this planet, other people, and each individual's sovereign life, as if they truly have that proper ownership of their bodies, and not trying to control or like be coercive towards, you know, any kind of control of that, you know, coercion of someone's free will. That's all I gotta say. Thank you for the time, everyone listening. So yeah, fellas, brothers, sisters.
Well then, if no one else has anything else to say, I'll close it up. Okay.
Crypt doesn't have anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You go, Jerry.
Well, Derek, I just wanted to say what you said. Like it sounds like someone's like, let's say I'm gonna die, and I'm like what you said. I just tell that to my son. Like that's how important that is. And like this is what we're giving you every single episode. So I just wanted to give you props on that, Derek. Now I do want to say I apologize in advance if what I'm gonna say doesn't sound perfect how it sounds. I'm just gonna get through some notes I wrote. So what I meant to say on my last time at bat was that what you don't know is scary. It can be scary. And I look at to see the positive side, like excitement. So like right now doing this, the more I do it, the better I get at it. And then solutions, right? Self-care. I know, Chris, it's like it starts with you. You have to care for yourself first before you can care for others, right? So meditation, breath work, shadow work every day. That is self-care. I got a couple more notes. One, the I don't know if it's encapsulated principle, but it's the care principle that Mark Passy talks about. It's what brings all of the other principles into manifestation, let's say.
The generative principle.
Yeah. So I recommend you look that up. It's, you know, a 10-minute video if you look it up on YouTube, or even watch Mark Passio's Natural Law Seminar. It's all in there. And it's essentially is like nothing gets done without care, right? So the bad people, they care about evil, destruction. And we need to have care to do what we say that we want, freedom. We can't, like we can say, hey, I want freedom. We can do that till the end of days, but we actually have to take the action to manifest it. And I think I have like one more thing to say. Um, sheesh. See if I can pull this up really quick. Got it from a slide. It's gonna have to wait. Anyways, just take care, y'all. Be emotionally intelligent. That's it. Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate those words, Jerry. But yeah, my closing words are I'm seeing too many people camping, man. I'm seeing too many people, posting up tents and like just thinking they're good where they're at. Like too many people thinking that, like they don't have to do shadow work, or like shadow work is, like so unimportant, man. And there's not enough people talking about it. There's like too many people who think that they are, really know what's going on or stuff like that, but they don't really get into like deeper topics as far as consciousness and natural law and objective morality and natural law. Like, guys, when we were talking about consciousness is infinite. Like what we can learn is infinite. Like there's no limit. We have to keep pushing ourselves in our knowledge. We have to keep pushing ourselves. Be willing to test ourselves. There's always new information coming. We have to constantly be willing to raise our consciousness, and I'm just not seeing enough of that. So that's what I want people to get from this is, you can always go further. You can always go deeper. There's always more to learn. There's always growth. You can teach an old dog new tricks. You can. So that's really what people need to learn. I'll leave it at that.
Can I just say, I have a couple mixes that I've done that just about care in and of itself, like Genesis and blah, blah, blah. You can check that out. My channel is Awakening Mind, one word, whatever. But yeah, Chris, thank you so much, fellas. It's always a pleasure. It is well worth staying up way past bedtime after working like 10 hours today. But
yeah,
it's
totally
all
worth
good.
it.
That's like we were talking about last time. So yeah, much love, yo.
That's true care. I have one more thing.
Yeah.
One more thing. Support each other. So, like, support Brandon's, support Derek's work. Like, if you're feeling down, reach out to others. We need to uplift each other.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Great
cheers,
point,
man.
Jerry. Yeah.
Show the love. Show the love, friends. True love.
Absolutely.
True care.
And the information out there is out there, guys. You just have to care enough to go and look
Yeah.
and find it because it's out there, guys. So that's a test. Do you care enough to even go and look for this information? Start your journey. If you don't care about that, you're dead in the water.
Do you care enough to get off of YouTube to find the information?
Exactly. Yeah, it's true. But do you care enough to get away from Netflix and really start diving in and learning these things? That's where it starts.
Do you care enough to read a book?
Yeah.
All right, friends. It's been a wonderful talk. I have so much respect for you gentlemen. Thanks so much for joining with this One Great Work Warriors project and the mastermind group we do and the wonderful content we're putting out and what I'm personally learning from hearing all your perspectives. So, thanks so much, guys. Appreciate it. And till next time.